Hey guys, it is November 16th, 2017, and this is Kyle aka Vulcan Wolverine. The November video marathon 2017 rolls on. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning where I am, and I have not gone to sleep. I'm sleeping during the day and awake all night, but I did want to go through two things, kind of just building up that case that with MK Ultra, mind control experiments, interrogation, torture has been done in this country and other countries for many years, and so I just want to kind of continue on that. On that path, just showing people, that this has happened before, and that it has kind of blossomed. And if you take directed energy weapon systems and the capability of no-touch torture, which I would say no-touch murder, in my case and many other target individuals' cases, you can see what many of our American agencies did with drugs and hypnosis and just those things. So imagine now that there's actually directed energy weapons, and I'll be doing videos on the patents for directed energy weapons, remote neural monitoring, and voice to skull. But imagine that now there's the capability to remotely hit somebody with directed energy signals. So kind of connect the dots, non-target individuals that with that capability, not just drugs and hypnosis and chemicals, which they do use chemicals on some target individuals, mostly for actually kind of making the target, like a dirty circuit board to accept the electromagnetic frequencies they're shooting at them. But imagine that they have this very sophisticated technology to hurt somebody remotely, and what they would do with it. Kind of take these examples of what has been done in the past, and then imagine you have a sophisticated weapon system that's pretty advanced and developed enough to actually test it out on the public of the world. But let me just read this. Project Artichoke. Project Artichoke, also referred to as Operation Artichoke, was a CIA project that researched interrogation methods and arose from Project Bluebird on August 20th, 1951, run by the CIA's Office of Scientific Intelligence. A memorandum by Richard Helms to CIA Director Alan Welsh Dulles indicated Artichoke became Project MK Ultra on April 13th, 1953. So this was before MK Ultra. This Project Artichoke rolled into MK Ultra, which expanded it. A Central Intelligence Agency Project Artichoke document reads, "Not all viruses have to be lethal. The objective includes those that act as short-term and long-term incapacitating agents." The project studied hypnosis, forced morphine addiction, and subsequent forced withdrawal, and the use of other chemicals including LSD to produce amnesia and other vulnerable states in the subjects. Artichoke was a mind control program that gathered information together with the intelligence divisions of the Army, Navy, Air Force, and FBI. In addition, the scope of the project was outlined in a memo dated January 1952 that stated, "Can we get control of an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will and even against fundamental laws of nature such as self-preservation?" I want to read that again because that's very important. In addition, the scope of this project was outlined in a memo dated January 1952 that stated, "Can we get control of an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will and even against fundamental laws of nature such as self-preservation?" Project Artichoke was the Central Intelligence Agency's secret code name for carrying out in-house and overseas experiments using LSD hypnosis, and total isolation as a form of physiological harassment for special interrogations on human subjects. The subjects who left this project were fogged with amnesia, resulting in faulty and vague memories of the experience. According to Jeffrey K., the name of this project came about from New York City criminal Ciro Terranova, who was nicknamed the Artichoke King. It was formerly known as Project Bluebird, but in August 1951, the operation was renamed. This project was a kickoff for MK-Ultra. The CIA disputed which department would take over the operation. Finally, it was decided that an agent from the CIA research staff, former U.S. Army Brigadier General Paul F. Gaynor, would oversee it. The CIA chose the weaker and less intelligent as its subjects, which they perceived to be homosexuals, racial minorities, and military prisoners. The operation took place in special isolated locations throughout Japan, Europe, Asia, and the Philippines. And then there is an article. Here's a memorandum from the NSA, basically just going through and stating what Project Artichoke did. And this was in January 1975. I'm not going to read all this. It's just an official PDF document that the NSA released on Project Artichoke. And you can get this if you just Google, Project Artichoke. It's like the second one down, the NSA memorandum on it, just proving its existence more. And then I kind of wanted to go through the QBARC manual for CIA counterintelligence interrogation, because a lot of target individuals experience torture tactics, no-touch torture tactics, and kind of interrogation methods that were refined with the QBARC method. So the first manual, QBARC Counterintelligence Interrogation, dated July 1963, is the source of much of the material in the second manual. QBARC was a U.S. Central Intelligence Agency cryptonym for the CIA itself. The cryptonym QBARC appears in the title of the 1963 CIA document, QBARC Counterintelligence Interrogation, which describes interrogation techniques including, among other things, coercive counterintelligence interrogation of resistant sources. This is the oldest manual and describes the use of abusive techniques, as exemplified by 2 references to the use of electric shock, in addition to the use of threats and fear, sensory deprivation, and isolation. So that's very important right there. In the QBARC manual, they refined electric shock, in addition to the use of threats and fear, sensory deprivation, and isolation. The use of threats and fear are used on target individuals either by, gang stalking, through V2K. The V2K will threaten to kill me a lot, as other TIs with Voice to Skull, say that their V2K is always threatening to kill them, or TIs with synthetic telepathy will get the inner voice thing that they're gonna kill them. One time, not by Voice to Skull, but by inner voice, by synthetic telepathy, and it was actually about 6 days after I started this project. My synthetic telepathy, which is basically, it's either subliminal Voice to Skull or some kind of electromagnetic frequency pushed back through the throat and the jaw, which you pick up as your inner voice. Said, if you don't stop doing what you're doing, if you don't stop the November video bomb, we're gonna kill your dog. And my attackers, like the people on the remote platform doing the V2K and mutilating my body, they usually don't threaten my family. They usually just threaten to kill me. But when I started this, they actually did. And then it came back around, like, the synthetic telepathy was like, no, we're not going to kill your dog. That was just a joke. So they do a lot of this stuff through synthetic telepathy and Voice to Skull, threats and fear. And isolation is a huge thing that they do to target individuals, with making us, so traumatized. We're so traumatized and mutilated. and also with the gang stalking, that it makes us isolated in life, isolated from our families and our friends. I'm going to go down. The second manual, Human Resource Exploitation Training Manual, 1983, was used in at least 7 U.S. training courses conducted in Latin American countries, including Honduras between 1982 and 1987. According to a declassified 1989 report prepared for the Senate Intelligence Committee, the 1983 manual was developed from notes of a CIA interrogation course in Honduras. Both manuals deal exclusively with interrogation. Both manuals have an entire chapter devoted to coercive techniques. These manuals recommend arresting suspects early in the morning by surprise, blindfolding them, and stripping them naked. Suspects should be held incommunicado and should be deprived of any kind of normal routine in eating and sleeping. Interrogation rooms should be windowless, soundproof, dark, and without toilets. The manuals advise that torture techniques can backfire and that the threat of pain is often more effective than pain itself. The manuals describe coercive techniques to be used to induce psychological regression in the subject by bringing a superior outside force to bear on his will to resist. And that's an important statement right there. So the QBARC manual says to induce psychological regression in a subject by bringing a superior outside force to bear on his will to resist. And it's a major thing done to targeted individuals because we're dealing with directed energy weapon systems that can hit us anywhere. In our homes, in our cars, wherever we go, our friend's house, a superior outside force. And also, the gang stalking in conjunction where you have people doing weird things or getting in your way or just making trouble for you. It seems like this huge thing against you. So it's supposed to regress the subject, a psychological regression. The threat of fear, and also, the show of a superior outside force, because that's what the military does. That's what the military-industrial complex does. Excuse me, I had to burp. These techniques include prolonged constraint, prolonged exertion, extremes of heat, cold, or moisture, deprivation of food or sleep, so sleep deprivation, disrupting routines, solitary confinement, threats of pain, deprivation of sensory stimuli, hypnosis, and use of drugs or placebos. Between 1984 and 1985, after congressional committees began questioning training techniques being used by the CIA in Latin America, the 1983 manual went through substantial revision. In 1985, a page advising against using coercive techniques, tripping over my words, using coercive techniques was inserted at the front of Human Resource Exploitation Training Manual. Handwritten changes were also introduced haphazardly into the text. For example, while we do not stress the use of coercive techniques, we do want to make you aware of them and the proper way to use them has been altered to, while we deplore the use of coercive techniques, we do want to make you aware of them so that you may avoid them. That's funny. But the entire chapter on coercive techniques is still provided with some items crossed out. They kind of backtrack to make themselves appear humane. The same manual states the importance of knowing local laws regarding detention, but then notes illegal detention always requires prior HQS, headquarters approval. The two manuals were completely declassified and released to the public in May 2004 and are now available online. The 1983 Manual and Battalion 316. In 1983, the Human Resource Exploitation Training Manual 1983 methods were used by the U.S.-trained Honduran Battalion 316. On January 24, 1997, QBARC Counterintelligence Interrogation and Human Resource Exploitation Training Manual 1983 were declassified in response to a FOIA request filed by the Baltimore Sun in 1994. Baltimore Sun was investigating kidnapping, torture, and murder committed by the Honduran Battalion 316 Death Squad. The documents were released only after the Baltimore Sun had threatened to sue the CIA. In the June 11th to 18th, 1995 four-part series, the Baltimore Sun printed excerpts of an interview